Bless you? What's that?
I don't even know. I mean, how many times have I, like, coughed or something right before we started talking?
Oh, yeah, I know, but that sounded like between a
that
cough,
was a frustrated
sneeze,
roar.
and an exasperation.
I think it was, except for the sneeze part. Anyway. Welcome back to the Writing Inquisition. I'm Carol Benton.
I'm Marie Allen. I'm EmRose.
And this time we're going to talk about incorporating sensory details into your writing. Now, I know I'm not great at this because I'm not great at description to begin with, but I'm working on it. So to start off, how do we tell when it's appropriate or not appropriate to include sensory detail?
Well, we came up with a list that we all agreed upon.
Yeah, more or less.
So basically, EmRose said whenever a new place is introduced.
Mm-hmm.
I said whenever a new character is introduced, you need to use at least some of those.
Mm-hmm. Did I actually contribute to that part?
I also contributed to, like, if it's going to bring up a strong memory, since especially, like, the sense of smell is highly linked to memory, like you had said.
Yeah.
If it's going to bring up a memory that's super important, that'll move the story forward in some capacity.
Or at least help you understand the character a bit more.
Or explain something,
Yeah.
Which, again, moves the story forward in some capacity.
Yes.
Yes. And then there were others.
Reading it out loud, I think, helps. Because you can hear when you read it where you're like, why am I describing this when we were so into this part?
Yeah.
I think the purpose of the scene can help, too. Because, like, I mean, if a character walks into a new location that's really tense, you can still describe the scene.
Yeah.
But I think you don't need to be like, it smelled like lilacs.
Yeah.
And you're like,
What the fuck does this have to do with
yeah.
anything?
And my other ones were, like, in an action scene.
Yeah.
Like, in a battle, you want to rely heavily on the senses and the emotions. Same with an intimacy scene.
Yeah, which I don't think any of us feel
No,
confident enough in our writing to write
that's
those
for
yet.
probably another video when we have tried our hand at it.
I know I'm probably going to fail miserably.
Me too.
At least the first time.
Yes, so we'll be along for the ride together on
Y'alls.
that. Alright, maybe we should, like, write one just for this.
Oh, God.
Read it aloud.
Oh,
That's a terrible idea.
Yes, it is. Because I don't know the demographic of the people who actually watch this other than us.
There'll be an R-rated video.
Yeah, that will have maturity warnings on it.
Yeah, but it would be fun.
Yeah, that's actually one of the reasons why I'm
do
really
that.
confused as to why Sarah J. Maas's stuff is considered young adult.
Right?
Yeah, it's like, shouldn't that be adult?
Yeah, because
that gets real graphic!
It's graphic!
It's like, you spent 3 paragraphs talking about how hard his dick was! Ah!
Basically.
And the sensitivity of the wings, like, meh.
But that would definitely be a good exercise as writers, because it would throw us in, out of our comfort zone.
Yeah, no, and there's actually, I read somewhere that some romance author had actually strongly advised writing sex scenes, just because it's a very specific art form that's very difficult to do well, so that'll help a lot with sensory details.
Right, yeah. So actually that would be a good exercise if you are old enough.
Yes.
Try it when you are old enough.
And preferably once you've had some experience.
Yes.
Both with good sex and bad sex.
Yes. 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 Yes.
I'm gonna fail miserably.
You have a wonderful imagination.
Yes. One sort of tip that I had come up with during our pre-recording discussion is, for the first draft in particular, go overboard with your sensory detail, because you can always tone it back, but it's really hard to tone it up.
Yeah, exactly. Once it's written, it's very hard to actually implant it where you think it needs to go. It's more of like, overdo it, and then when you read it again to yourself during the editing process, you can be like, oh yeah, that does go there naturally, okay, I'm going to cut this out because it's excessive.
Like, this does not need to be here.
Yeah.
I will again point to the original description and the current iteration of the
And there'll be some where you're like, well, that could be symbolic.
Yeah, because when I originally sent Marie the first draft of the book with the original description of the castle gardens, because I'd made this whole hullabaloo about the gardens being, like, exceptional and renowned and all this other stuff, but didn't actually describe them.
Yeah, I was
and
reading
Marie was like,
where are the freaking gardens?
yeah, like, maybe you should describe this a little more. I am a light switch person, not a dimmer switch person. I do not have a spectrum, I am on or off. I wrote way too much.
Yes. So I was like, write more, because there was nothing. And then
tone it down a little.
Yeah, the next one that I got, it was like just everything, and I was just like, oh my god, too much. Pull back.
I'm gonna need you to pump the brakes.
I think I crossed out like half that.
Yeah, something like
you
that.
don't need this, these are good.
Yeah. And like, in book 2, I know I described like a very particular gazebo type thing that actually made sense to be there.
I remember the gazebo.
Yes, you know. Yeah, and I don't think I overdid it.
I don't think so.
Like, I mentioned it was like wrought iron and that there was wisteria growing on it, because I love wisteria, it's so pretty.
Yeah.
And it, like...
Just imagine me going, yeah, every time you write.
Yes! Yeah, so what are the various purposes of using sensory detail?
World building.
What?
Yes, world building.
Oh.
For those of you who cannot...
Wild bounding. I was like, what is that?
Yeah, world building is very good because, of course, your characters do not exist in a void.
Right.
There is shit around them.
Yes.
It also helps enrich the scene if you do it right.
Yes.
Unlike me.
I can't do it either. That's too hard.
I'm starting to get better at it, and I've been writing for like 15 years.
Oh, another appropriate place to put it, even though this is really obvious, is when food's involved.
Yes.
Yeah.
Food porn!
Yeah.
I have all my foods.
Yeah, I don't think I ever actually described the food very well when it's shown up in my work.
That's another really good exercise, is to write like a big like food scene where the meal and the food eaten together or made together is like really kind of important.
Yeah, because then you can really get the smell and taste stuff down.
Yeah.
Obviously the food should look appetizing, but that's a little bit harder to describe.
Food typically brings people together.
Yeah.
So that's really good when forming new allies.
Well,
like your characters are trying to form new allies or something. Meal is important.
Yeah, there's a reason why when business deals go down, even in the real world, it's over a dinner or something.
Yeah. That makes sense, actually.
Yeah.
I never really put that together.
Well, it's because I'm so smart. I actually heard that somewhere, like, back in high school or something, that, like, eating brings a certain amount of vulnerability, because, like, not even getting into the allergies that people have, or the food sensitivities, or what have you, but there's something very vulnerable about letting your guard down enough to put nutrition into your body. So it's not just, like... I mean, the first time we got together outside of school, we went to Cheeseboard and got a huge fucking pizza.
Yeah.
And then spent, like, 3 hours or something eating the pizza and talking about writing.
And that's one reason, too, while I was always, like, apprehensive about a first date being like, you know, a meal, a dinner, or something.
Yeah,
with
because
guy
it is a certain amount of
because I hated that. Like, I'm like, that's like a third date.
Well, you don't have to worry about that now.
No, I don't. I mean,
Emma and I on the other hand
that was the thing. I was like, I can't, I felt weird about it. I'm like, I don't know you well enough to eat in front of you yet.
Yeah. Especially with... There's also a lot of cultural stuff that can come in with eating.
Yeah, that's true.
Because how the food is eaten, how it's prepared, how it's presented, all have a huge impact
the ingredients that can go into it very heavily.
Like, eating a pizza is completely different than eating, like, Ethiopian food, which I've never had.
Exactly.
But I want to try it so bad.
Exactly. So, I mean, there you go.
Yeah, because, like, then you have the eating utensils involved, which can also add some comedy to it. Like, somebody who's never seen chopsticks in their life having to use chopsticks. How the fuck?
How?
Like, I know it took me years to get comfortable with chopsticks, and I've been using them
I'm still not very
little.
comfortable with them, but I like to try.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So there's things like that come with food that can really make a difference in how characters perceive each other. Like, I know I did this with you. I don't think I actually ended up doing this with you, because, like, the first time we got together after college was the first day that we shot the podcast. So we went kind of straight into that, and then I think I had you both stay for dinner that night.
Yeah.
But, like, we had been talking online for, like, 6 months or something before that. Like, some ridiculous amount of time.
But yeah, I think it definitely ups the intimacy between two people or more.
Yeah.
In a huge way, like, more so than how you would think in, like, a romantic sense or something.
Yeah, and, like, there's two Rob Reiner movies that do that a lot. Because when Harry Met Sally, Sally is very particular about her food.
Yes.
She's, like, it must be like this, this, and this, and there's, like, a whole dialogue sequence about that.
Yes.
And then there's another one called Alex and Emma, I think.
I remember being little and that premiering and everybody teasing me and a kid named Alex. Go on.
Yeah. But there's, I mean, I think it's a movie that we should watch together just because it's about a writer. But the woman in that, Emma, is also, like, there's a scene where they're working late and they're eating a pizza and she's sitting there, like, peeling the skins off the tomatoes from the pizza because she doesn't like tomato skins.
Oh, okay.
So, like, it can indicate some really interesting quirks about people as well. And this is a long rant about food writing.
It is. It turned into a food episode.
Whoops!
Sorry.
Yeah. So, let's see. And then another one that EmRose had pointed out was that you can use sensory details to show character.
Right, we were talking about sensory details.
Yes, that one.
We'll do an actual food one later on.
There will be a whole different episode on food writing.
Yeah.
But EmRose had talked about how, like, what a character notices first. Like, the one that you'd mentioned about music. Do you want to go on that?
Yeah, so my example, I haven't been used well, my only example, because I can't remember anything, is in this Savage song, August is a violinist, he's also a monster, but that doesn't matter, but he obviously loves music. And the first scene where you see him in, he's in a school, and it's all centered around sound, the description of what the school looks like and feels like it's all centered around sound. So I thought it'd be fun to go through all my characters and be like, well, are you more a sound person? Do you notice taste? Do you notice texture? Even though I only have one point of view character, I think it'd be fun to do.
And then you bounced off that with Farah.
Yeah. In the Court series and the Throne of Glass series, both by Sarah J. Maas, scent is a huge deal there. Not in the least because it's kind of like a mating indicator, which is actually scientifically based, because there's this whole pheromone thing of, like, your right partner will smell good to you.
Right.
And all of that detail, but she will occasionally say, like, Raysan smells like citrus in the sea. And I can't remember anybody else's scents at all. But, like...
I think it's just him.
Yeah. I think she mentions Farah's at some point. She never mentions Tamlin's, which is a huge indicator on its own.
Yeah.
I think Farah's had, like, jasmine or something in it, which is typically a night blooming flower. Foreshadowing. But, like, I know Rowan's from the Throne of Glass series, which you will read at some point, his scent is pine and stone.
Yes, I remember that.
Nobody smells good in my book.
Also from the same series, which actually was the initial thing I was thinking about, was how Farah sees people in, like, a paint situation.
That's what I was saying,
Yeah, you were saying that.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember which one
because
said that, but yeah.
Because Farah's a painter, so she notices
something.
light and color and all of that stuff, especially in book 1. It shifts a little bit in book 2 and on.
It does, but she still keeps it.
Yeah.
And also you can use rising tension if there's, like, contrast, like if somebody's in like a, or even like in a room, you know, the clock could be ticking.
Yeah.
And that.
And one person could be, like, totally zened out by it while another person's completely annoyed by it.
Yeah. Or like a garden party, maybe the sun's too hot and your character has a bad feeling, something's gonna happen, but everybody around them is fine.
Yeah.
So you can do that.
Yeah.
Listen to the unicorn.
Are we already on handy tools?
I think so.
Yeah, okay, because I think that's going to last the majority of the
yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a brief list of handy tools, and I will have a link to our shared Pinterest board, because I did invite you both to edit that.
Yeah.
That has little handy tools, and now that there's a sections mechanic, yay! Then that board will be subdivided by episode and all that good stuff. But I have found a ton of color charts on Pinterest that are just like, that's the color I need.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what the hell it was called.
Yeah.
Because too many colors! Reference images are also abundant. Because, like, I know for me writing royalty, I don't have much experience with gowns.
Yeah.
A tiny little bit, but it's not,
like... You can tell in my writing I, like,
titles.
barely describe clothes. I need to describe them more, but I'm just like...
Yeah, but on the sensory detail thing. I have something here that I've referred to as texture swatches, which I think I need to explain a little bit.
Like fabric. Yeah.
Fabrics, but also, like, there's a huge difference between raw wood and polished wood, different metal textures. Like, a solder line has a completely different texture than sheet metal does.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and, like, different plaster textures, stone textures, like, just getting your hands on little examples of things, like, back when I was working at the store, I had access to all kinds of crystals.
Yeah.
And I still have a bunch that I've not used that much since I changed jobs. But, like, just the difference between a raw stone and a polished stone is massive. Like, especially if you have, like, a geode or something that's been polished on the outside, but you still have that rough on the inside. It's going to have a very specific feel to it.
Yeah.
And, like, the weight of things also changes. Like, there's a stone called jet that's actually fossilized carbon. No, not carbon. Fossilized charcoal, that's it. Where it's a lot lighter than it looks. So it, like, I've been tempted on several occasions that I haven't actually done this, because I was always tempted while I was at work, and that was not conducive to actually getting shit done. Of seeing if jet would float. Because it's also referred to as black amber. So amber is another stone that's a lot lighter than it looks. But getting the feel for different things will help a lot with describing them. Like, this blanket versus this blanket that's down here.
Yeah.
Because this is a very fuzzy one, this is a very woven one.
Just cover that back up.
Yep. She's still mid-move, there's still things that need to be put away, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so getting a feel for different textures, and also keeping in mind that there's more to something like touch than just the feel of something. And then I found a very specific list in one of my Writer's Digests for tips on getting better descriptions. So just going through the 5 typical senses.
Yeah.
With sight, you want to be specific, but you also don't want to go overboard with it. Like,
be specific and to the point.
Yeah.
It says make comparisons and include unique details, which is really big, because if you're, like, think about it this way. Most people are sighted. There's some people who are not.
Yeah.
So you need to make comparisons in order for them to see it if you're talking to someone who is blind.
Yeah, there's a challenge that was going around on Tumblr, I think, that showed up on Pinterest, because that's how I find these things.
There is someone on YouTube, actually, that I have
Molly
been
Burke?
Yeah, I love her.
Yes.
Watch her. She's a blind woman, and she is amazing. She talks about these kinds of things as well, not necessarily specific to writing, but when someone tries to explain color to her, or
because
details, or stuff like that, that will help you as a writer, so definitely go watch her videos.
And, I mean, I have a little bit of a leg up because my mom is going blind, so I have a little bit more direct access to that.
Yes.
But, you know, it's definitely different, because Molly Burke, this blind YouTuber that we're talking about, who I'll, just for the hell of it, I'll leave a link to her channel. She was sighted as a child, but lost it by the time she was a teenager,
yeah,
if I'm remembering correctly.
14?
Yeah, something like that.
And she never had great eyesight to begin with.
Yeah, and now she has, like, light differentiation, but she can't see color, she can't, like, see detail at all.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, like, there's a lot of things that you can do with that. If you come at it from a disability point of view, be sure to be very respectful of the people who actually have those disabilities, just as a disclaimer.
That goes for disability, mental
illness, physical illness, which I have some experience in.
Be sensitive and do your research.
Yes. And
and accuracy is key.
If at all possible, talk to somebody who actually has those issues.
Yes.
But, like, a blind person would be more sensitive to sound and touch. A deaf person would be much more sensitive to touch and sight. If you have somebody with multiple disabilities... Oh, that was the other book that I was reading! She was blind! That was it! Sorry.
Different note!
Completely, like, sidetracked. But,
welcome to the sidetrack show.
But, like, for me, I have some idea of what certain amputations could be like, just because I have very sensitive joints. So there are times when I can't walk, like during Black and White Ball when my good knee gave out. That was fun. Had to be escorted by one of the committee heads. One of the chairs, I should say. Back to my hotel on one of the scooters that was supposed to stay in the convention center.
You didn't tell me about this.
No, I did not, because there was a lot that went on.
Later.
Yeah. It was all fine, though, I'm fine.
Well, I can say that. She recovered. Yay!
Yes, ish. But, you know, being sensitive to those who have had amputations happen, and realizing, like, a lot of people have heard of phantom pains, but it's really hard to describe them without experiencing them, which I don't recommend unless you have to. But really getting into how losing a sense can affect things.
Yeah.
Like, I have a weird thing going on with one of my toes right now from my West Coast swing shoes that, like, it still hasn't regained all its feelings, so it's kind of numb. That's my life! It doesn't actually affect anything, it just feels really weird when I run my other foot across it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, because it's, like, perpetually asleep until it comes back. But anyway, so moving on to sound, officially. What was said in the workshop article was relay the sounds of the actions, describe a specific sound and how it impacts the action and characters, and try to change things up using onomatopoeia. That's like using the sound of an action, like the clicking of my rings together. Click is very obvious, it's not quite as descriptive as it could be.
Right, yeah.
Like, maybe the incessant tinkling of her fidgeting fingers with the rings against each other or something.
Yeah.
A little bit more elegant than that, because that was just...
That was just thrown out, but that was pretty decent, overall.
The phrasing could use some work, but that was a rough draft.
I mean, for just thinking of up at the top of your head.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty good.
And describing the specific sounds and how it impacts the action and characters, like, one thing that I've noticed in cinema in particular, like, if there's a period piece or a fantasy piece that mirrors a period where there's a beheading, oftentimes they'll do a beat or two of silence before the acts drop.
Oh, right.
So just to give that little extra oomph to it.
I love when there's silence in, like, movies and TV shows. It's so great.
Yeah.
Especially, like, when there's, like, all these different action bits that are happening, and it's just silence, and you're just seeing these images with this, like...
Yeah, like that muted bass sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were just like, whoa.
What the fuck?
Yeah. It's very ominous.
Yeah. And especially in action scenes. Like, I love it when there's that beat of silence in an action scene. Especially when there's, like, a huge impact of action that's about to happen.
Yeah.
Like, that is...
Yeah.
Wonderful. And finding a way to translate that into
writing. It always catches your attention. So, yeah, if you can figure out how to do that in your writing, you are awesome.
Yeah. And we bow to your expertise.
Yes.
So moving on to touch, make sure to go beyond skin deep. And I briefly mentioned this earlier. So, like, not just how the blanket feels, but, like, again, in an action scene. Because that's kind of the easiest way to mention this as, like, feeling that impact from a hit.
Yeah, or like how the sword goes through someone's body.
Yeah.
You know, that's jarring, but you feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, just that, like, feeling that gut twin, like, tightening of, like, if you've been poisoned and just realize that something's not right because your stomach is now in a knot out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So, like...
Or if it's in a knot because of a crush or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a different kind of knot.
Yeah. Yeah,
Not
so...
poison, unless you've been poisoned and you have a crush.
Yeah, well, then you're screwed. I also have here, let action suggest feeling. So, like, chances are if you're throwing something across the room and you feel like that very specific overextension in your shoulder or your elbow, chances are you ain't happy.
Mm-mm.
So going into something like that. Moving on to smell, we touched on this earlier of scene changing equals scent changing.
Mm-hmm.
Be brief unless necessary and use layers to your scents, because no scent is simple.
Yeah.
Like with Sarah J. Maas using scent, there's always at least 2 components to it. It's never just one.
Yeah, exactly, because, I mean, there's more than... There's scents all around you, all around us and you that are clashing together constantly, that are moving with the air, so you're smelling multiple things all the time.
Yeah, and like one thing that I kept thinking of when you were talking about like the garden party situation, garden party, you're surrounded by flowers. Typically speaking, flowers smell fairly nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very perfumey. That's why perfumes are based off flowers most of the time. But sensing just like that one discordant note to that smell. Like, I know for a fact there's flowers that smell like rotting bodies. I know they exist. They're not very common, but they exist.
Exactly. Like yeah, there's some that smell really awful.
Yeah.
Or if it's sickly sweet, because your character's in a bad mood or thinks something's wrong.
Yeah.
You can tweak it a bit.
Or maybe it's an overpowering smell in the garden because all the flowers with the fragrance.
And it's nauseating.
Yeah, it's nauseating.
Yeah. So going beyond the surface scent and really digging into it, while still being brief, which can be a very tricky balance.
Yeah. I mean, really, you don't want to even use smell unless it's going to be, like, important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, usually that change of scenery definitely is important.
And
characters, it's like only if it's really defining.
Yeah, like only if it
or
really
if it
needs to be
hints
there.
at something important, like a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
Everybody smells like the ocean.
They smell like lilacs, and they smell like the ocean, and they smell like dirt.
Yeah, another thing to keep in mind with smell is you don't really need to describe it unless it's hinting at something.
Yeah.
Because, like, again, with Sarah J. Maas, it's often hinting toward, like, romantic compatibility, which is based on the science of pheromones, which actually exist in this world. But you also want to be, like, consistent with the realities of things. Like, Reese ain't gonna be smelling good at a battle. He just ain't. You're gonna be covered in mud and blood and entrails, and it's not gonna be nice.
No.
Why don't you smell like citrus in the ocean? Go away!
But also having somebody who's, like, completely cleaned up smelling like campfire smoke makes no sense.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like...
I took a bath and then I sat by a campfire.
Yeah.
For
8 hours.
Here for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Then I walked back in here.
Yeah, like, it makes no sense. Like, if you want to have somebody smell like tobacco
That's
or
gonna be
something...
a very specific thing.
Yeah, like...
For the most part, it will not make sense.
I mean, I know there's oils that make you smell like a campfire. I had to stock them at the store back when I
Or
worked
if you
there.
were dressed up and ran through a camp.
Yeah.
I mean... Okay, that's the specific scene.
Yeah. But if y'all getting all dressed up and going to a nice dinner, what the fuck, you smell like a campfire?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Just no. Moving on to our final sense of taste. Allow your characters to enjoy or suffer the tastes of the day.
Or both.
Or both. Like, for me, food usually tastes pretty good, but prednisone is the bitterest thing I've ever tasted, and I hate it. I hate the taste of prednisone, and it coats the mouth. So you have to be real quick when you're taking it, because otherwise everything's going to taste like shit for the rest of the day. But, like, I again have a fairly unique experience, especially compared to these two.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think y'all have had to take liquid potassium.
No.
That shit is saltier than the ocean water. It's like concentrated. It is nasty.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
And considering I can barely even, like, I can't even stand, like, salt water in my mouth for the most part. Like, ugh.
Yeah, no, and typically doctors won't give you potassium unless it's a dire situation like it was with me, because I was hospitalized.
Yeah.
My electrolytes were all out of whack. It was not a good situation.
Oh.
Yeah, no, this was before you and I met. But, like, I have never tasted something saltier than salt water.
That's amazing.
That shit was nasty.
That's terrible. I can barely, like, you know, they're like, oh, if your stomach's upset, mix baking soda and water. I can't do that, because I just feel like I'm drinking salt water. And I just...
Or, like, apple cider vinegar. Like, that's the cure-all, be-all, right? And it's like,
it's good
how
as an
do
ingredient.
you get it down with a spoonful or whatever?
Yeah, no, like, again, because of my experience, I could probably do it, because I've tasted worse things.
Yeah, if I did that, I'd probably puke right, like, immediately.
Yeah.
Or it wouldn't even go down.
Yeah, no, it's good as an ingredient, and, like, a highlight note, but not as the primary.
Yeah,
like,
just,
no.
I can only do it if there's honey and water, and put, like, extra honey.
Yeah, because shit.
I don't even, like, I tried kombucha, and I was like, this just tastes acidic and gross.
I cannot deal with kombucha. I don't know why my sister likes it so damn much. It just tastes like weirdly flavored vinegar.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it.
And I don't think I've ever had it, so I can't.
It's not worth it.
It's like
great.
the apple cider vinegar, but waterier. It's not.
And
not
with other flavors involved.
With other flavors.
It's fucking weird.
I
don't...
We're against kombucha. No.
I am. I do not get it. But my sister loves it. But we have wildly different tastes to begin with. But take time with the details when appropriate. So when we're talking about, like, a feast or, like, a very particular meal, and try to keep in mind the non-food tastes that we encounter. Like, strictly speaking, you can taste air, you can taste scents to a certain degree. It's like,
taste is another one of those things where you need to use it delicately.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be tasting the air all the time. You just, that's not necessary.
Yeah. Like, I don't need to describe either one of their tastes, because that makes no sense, and that would just be creepy as hell.
Yeah.
Like,
Taste is really intimate.
Yeah.
Especially when pertaining, like, to your character describing it on another person.
Yeah. And again, that's a completely different episode. That I don't know if we're even going to get done in the next year, much less anytime sooner than that.
Not. Probably not. That'd be like when we're far more experienced.
Yeah.
As writers.
Yes.
Experienced as writers.
Although in real life that wouldn't necessarily hurt either.
No, it wouldn't, but you know.
Anyway! So you added this last point. Do you want to go over that?
Oh, right. Well, I kind of mentioned this already, when it's appropriate.
Yeah.
But this is kind of like a pro tip as well. As mentioned before, in real life, sensory details can bring up strong memories, especially the sense of smell. It tends to be a big, strong indicator, but other senses can also play a part in it.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind, and only use it if it makes sense to do so, or if it brings up an important move. Wait, it is important to move the story forward. That's what that says.
Yes. Hello, English.
Yeah. Reading the words out of order.
Yes.
Never helps.
Dyslexia.
Let's see here, and it says you should definitely try to have a sensory detail bring a memory back for your character as they are experiencing it. Tips on how to do that effectively is the question.
Well, I've got a scene planned for book 3, but I don't know if I can explain it without spoiling a lot.
But it's there.
Yeah.
So.
It's going to mirror the final conflict with Brander in book 2.
Cool.
I don't think I can go beyond that without explaining the whole thing and spoiling so much.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
I need to utilize that more, because so far all my flashbacks have just been because I'm lazy. And I'm like, and then she fell asleep and had this flashback. Or had a
Flashback dream, yay!
Yeah, there you go. But I've read it in like books I've loved, but they transition really easily. I think if you did it at the end of it, like at the end of the chapter, I don't know, they're in the like area where the sensory thing is gonna happen, and then you start a new chapter. That could be helpful versus taking your reader totally out of the scene.
Yeah.
Because at least it would be at the beginning, or you could split it between the two somehow.
Oh, and I just thought of a way that you could use smell a bit better. Because I'm sure that blue fire on the arrows does not smell like regular fire.
No.
So that's something
Smells
that...
like something.
It smells like salt.
magic.
Yeah.
Salt.
Yeah, you can incorporate that the next time they get attacked with those arrows.
That's a good point. Maybe it could smell salty.
I have a feeling Gwen's going to experience this a lot.
Well, I mean...
Because considering her situation where she doesn't remember...
She's going to have a lot of memory triggers that need to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still not going to cover everything.
No, it's not going to cover everything, but I think that she's going to remember at least bits.
Yeah.
A lot of pieces. And I think that's going to help a lot because the big ones obviously are going to come at certain points through other means.
Yeah.
But I think when she's in a place...
Yeah.
You know,
with a very, very specific smell.
Exactly.
That's going to trigger something.
It's going to trigger stuff. And so, it's going to help sort of fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
For sure. So that's one reason why I was like, tips on how to do this effectively.
Yeah.
So if you guys can think of any tips, please leave them in the comments.
Yeah.
Because we don't ask that of you enough.
We really don't. I mean, one exercise that I would recommend is to, like, pick a sense in a day that you will pay extra attention to and describe it. Like, I mean, as a writer, I know I carry around a notebook pretty much everywhere. And I know both of you do as well.
Mm-hmm. And everybody has phones now.
Yeah, so there's always that method of doing it.
Yeah.
But, like, if you use public transit while you're waiting for your bus or your train or what have you, just describing something in some way beyond sight, because sight is the one that's typically used in writing.
Yes. Yeah. So I would, play around with definitely all of the senses, but definitely the other 4.
Yeah, the less common ones.
Yeah.
Because, like, I know we live in the Bay Area, and I know Marie and I definitely know how janky a BART train can smell.
Ugh.
I do not miss taking public transit.
The only good part about it is when the door opens.
Yeah, seriously.
And you get a full face of air.
And that's only in the above ground stations.
Yeah. Otherwise,
it gets a little janky.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever used BART, EmRose.
I feel like I must have. Because, I mean, I haven't had a car in my whole life.
Yeah.
The Muni, though, in San Francisco.
Oh, the Muni is a whole different...
I only used Muni once.
I only Muni a lot.
I only used Muni a couple of times, and always when somebody else was there to guide me through it, because I never used it.
I only did it once, and it was by myself, and it was during BART strikes.
Ah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was confused as hell. I was really late to my class.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm 2 hours late.
Sorry.
It's a 3-hour class.
But I'm here.
I probably shouldn't have come.
Yeah. Would have saved a lot of time and energy. Yeah. But, yeah, another sort of beyond skin deep sense to go through is thinking about pain. Because, like, there's everybody has experienced some form of physical pain. Mm-hmm. I've experienced a lot more than most people.
Yes.
Because of the fact that I have loose joints, a very competitive nature, was in a combat sport for 8 years, and I have many, many issues. I know the difference between tendon pain, bone pain, joint pain, organ pain, skin pain, nerve pain.
That's a long list
Yeah.
of different kinds of pain to be able to differentiate. Because most time when I get hurt, I'm like, I don't know where the pain's coming from yet.
Yeah. And
I just know I hurt in this general area.
I'm pretty sure I've done this with you. Like, I've tried to get, like, really specific about where the pain is and what kind of pain it is.
Yeah.
Because not only is there a difference between, like, your bone and your muscle pain, or tendon pain, or what the things I just listed, but there's also severity, and whether it's sharp, whether it's dull, whether it's low grade, whether it's high grade, like, there's all sorts of things. Like, I can, like, oftentimes with my bad knee in particular, it feels like there's a screw in the joint.
Ooh. Ooh.
Which makes you know exactly how it feels.
Yeah.
But
I'm like, all I can think of is like a screeching sound of like trying to nail in something like in a metal wall.
That's not that far off.
Ugh.
Yeah, and that's another example of being very specific and very brief.
Yeah.
Because all I said was screw in the joint. And got that instant shock reaction.
That's what I got.
Yeah.
And I got the whole like screeching sound of like chalk on a chalkboard.
Nails on a chalkboard,
nails on a chalkboard, either one.
Yeah. So like
a really squeaky chalk on a chalkboard.
Yeah. Or that like really weird ass feeling when like your pencil lead screeches.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I hate like when you take toilet paper out of the plastic thing. I don't know. I hate that the plastic is against something soft. I'm like, stop.
Just that juxtaposition feels
gross.
wrong.
Yeah. I'm just like, no.
I hate how loud that is, especially when you're trying to be quiet about it.
Yeah. Yeah, but like getting into the nitty-gritty details of like
Oh, that your character should be like, I hate when toilet paper.
Yeah. Like having that experience, like I know for a fact that I've done this many times in book 1, especially after Keller got the hell beaten out of her. Because at one point, I still don't know how I did this. I strained all of the intercostal muscles on my right side, and those are the muscles between the ribs. I could not do shit with that. That hurt like hell. That's the only time I cried on the chiropractor table.
Yeah, ow.
It was bad.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully you don't have personal experience like I do. Because it sucks a lot. And, like, hopefully you can at least talk to somebody who's had a different injury experience than you if you haven't had that particular injury or anything similar. I know I just hurt myself the other day because I was being dumb and not paying attention while I was making dinner.
I did this a week ago. Which
Fun.
Yeah. No, I was trying on some clothes that I had recently gotten from Amazon, and I had like this. I don't have like a mirror in my room, but I do have like this little square mirror. It's really supposed to be just for decoration, but that was the only thing that I really had, so I was trying to use it to sort of see, because otherwise I just have the bathroom mirror and I can only see like,
Because
I'm
you're
just
small.
and I can't see my entire thing. So anyway, it's challenging. Anyway, it was just kind of propped up on the floor against the bed, and it's not framed.
Raw glass edge.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I walked right into it.
I could still
very
do one
bloody.
better with how dumb I was with this.
Yeah.
Because I was making dinner, I was making pizza and salad, I was chopping something, I was listening to music and rocking out, and I flicked the knife around to use it as a microphone, like the back end,
Oh, no.
and the heel went into my hand. So I was like, oh shit. I am
You
dumb.
don't do that with knives!
I know! It was a
Don't
bad
make me slap you!
I know if you do, I'm gonna have a handprint on my face for the rest of the day. Because dermatographia is fun. Yeah. But yeah, so really paying attention to any time you're in pain and sort of jotting down notes on that, which I know can be very difficult. Like, EmRose just mentioned that she had a migraine last night, and I get those too, and I know how fucking annoying they are.
Those are awful.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And, like, I'm sure all three of us have wildly different migraines.
Yeah.
Because it's
I've had migraines where they last for a couple days at a time, and I wake up crying.
Oh.
Yeah, I've done the wake up crying thing. I've had them last for like a week. And for me, it just feels like I have a sledgehammer buried in the back of my head on the left side.
I hate the ones where you can feel the pressure, like whenever you move.
Yes.
Yeah, I hate
And
that.
it's just like, it's like you're balancing a boulder on your head.
Yeah. I used to tell my mom, I feel like I have a boulder in my head or it'll go up in my head, and then every time I move.
Yeah. But
I've been lucky. They haven't lasted. Well, I mean, they'll like last for like a day, and I might wake up with it again, but it hasn't been like solid tier of pain. So
yeah,
no. I just get nauseous, which is not fun.
Yeah, that's actually one of the ways that I bonded with my sister's boyfriend.
Oh, really?
Because he has almost worse knots in his shoulders than I do.
Oh, geez.
Which is saying something. Because actually one of my friends from Black and White Ball gave me a quick massage on Saturday during con, and he pointed out, like, do you know you have a slip disc in your neck? Like, that explains a lot! So, yeah, I function beyond what most people would do. Because I have to, because if I didn't, nothing would ever get done. But yeah, so really experiencing your pain and your joy and, like, when you get tickled and the feeling of a hug from somebody when you really need one and all of that sort of thing, and the pain of heartbreak. There's a lot that you can pay attention to that will really help your writing.
Senses do tend to tie into emotional things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Quite a bit as well. You know, experiences, memories, and simple emotions.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's all you remember from your memories.
Yeah. Yeah, so keeping all of that in mind, despite our extreme rambling nature, I think that's all we could really add without completely draining my battery and my memory card. So, on that note, thank you for joining us on the Writing Inquisition. I'm Carol Benton.
I'm Marie Allen.
I'm EmRose.
And we'll see you next time.